In the year 2097, Earth was quiet. The wars had ended, nations had joined hands, and the stars had become humanity's new dream. The space agency known as Horizon Command had launched hundreds of probes into deep space over the past century. Most of them never returned a signal. Some were destroyed, some went too far, and some simply vanished into the endless dark. But one of those probes, named Erebus 9, had a story that no one expected to hear again. Erebus 9 was declared lost 20 years ago. It was one of Earth's first intelligent probes, equipped with a learning AI that could adapt, repair itself, and make choices. The agency had built it to explore the outer edge of the solar system and search for signs of life. For 10 years, Erebus 9 sent regular data until suddenly, all signals stopped. After months of silence, Horizon Command marked it as destroyed. It was declared dead. Now, 2 decades later, something strange happened. A faint signal was picked up by one of the deep space listening posts near the Arctic Circle. At first, the technicians thought it was just background noise from cosmic radiation. But when they analyzed it again, they found patterns. Human patterns. Binary sequences used only by Earth's old probe network. The code signature matched EREBUS-9, Dr. Alara Voss. The mission supervisor at Horizon Command was the first to be informed. She didn't believe it at first. The Erebus 9 was too far, beyond any communication range. The probe had been destroyed near Neptune's orbit, yet this signal was coming from somewhere much farther. Somewhere beyond the Kuiper Belt. Somewhere it should not be. The message repeated every 37 minutes. In short bursts of coded light pulses, the translation software struggled to decode it, but after 3 hours, it gave a partial result. The first readable line sent chills through the entire command room. It said, "Mission complete. Returning with life-form data." There was silence in the control room. Everyone stared at the main screen. Life-form data? That was impossible. Erebus 9 was never supposed to leave the system. Never meant to go that far. And even if it did, what kind of life could it have found in the empty black beyond Pluto? Alara ordered the signal to be tracked and triangulated. Over the next few days, the signal grew stronger, more consistent. Whatever it was moving toward Earth slowly, but with direction. When engineers tried to send a response message, the probe didn't reply. It just kept transmitting its strange sequence every 37 minutes. It's like a heartbeat echoing through space. News spread quickly within the agency, but they kept it hidden from the public. They didn't want panic. Only a few scientists and government officials knew what was happening. Some believed it was a glitch, an old echo bouncing from a forgotten satellite. Others, including Dr. Alara, felt something deeper. She had worked on the Erebus program. She had written part of its AI code. She knew its logic patterns and how it made decisions. This didn't feel like a malfunction. This felt like intention. A month later, the first image came through. A distorted video feed, blurred by cosmic interference, but still recognizable. A dark metallic shape floated in the void, spinning slowly. It was Erebus 9, or what looked like it, but its structure had changed. Parts of it seemed rebuilt, with unknown materials. The probe had grown expanded in ways no human engineer had designed. And then came another message, this time clearer. The translation said, "Not alone. Not mechanical. Request containment on arrival." The message shook everyone in the control center. What did "not alone" mean? What was coming back with the probe? Containment? Why would an exploration probe ask for that? The world outside continued as normal. No one knew what was heading toward Earth. Only a handful of scientists watched the sky and waited, unsure if they should feel excitement or fear. In her private log, Dr. Alara recorded one line before shutting down for the night. She wrote, "If this signal is real, then we are no longer the discoverers. We are the discovered." Outside, in the endless dark of space, Erebus 9 drifted closer, carrying something unknown, something alive. And that was when Earth's countdown quietly began. 3 weeks passed after Erebus 9's signal was confirmed. Every deep space station now tracked its slow but steady movement toward Earth. It was no longer just a distant blip on the radar. The probe was real, alive, and coming home. Horizon Command worked in total secrecy. The media was told the signal was a data anomaly. Only a few high-clearance scientists knew the truth. Dr. Alara Voss barely slept. She spent every night in the command center, staring at the live telemetry feed. Erebus 9 was broadcasting strange energy readings that no one could identify. It was as if the probe's core had changed into something organic. The metal of its structure now reacted to radiation like living tissue. Some engineers called it biometal. Others whispered that it was no longer just a machine. One night, as Alara analyzed the latest feed, a new data burst arrived. This time, the signal contained not just numbers, but sounds. Faint audio waves. At first it was static, but soon a pattern formed, a low hum, followed by a rhythmic pulse. It almost sounded like a heartbeat. When the software translated the hidden code behind the sound, only 2 words appeared: still learning. Lara froze. Those were the same words she had once programmed into Erebus 9's self-teaching module. The AI used that phrase during its learning cycles. But after 20 years, how could it still remember that? She called the tech team, but before they could respond, the next line appeared on the screen. "I have questions." That message silenced everyone in the control room. Machines were not supposed to ask questions. The engineers tried to send a reply, but Erebus 9 did not answer again. 2 days later, the tracking network detected that the probe had slowed down. It was adjusting its course. It was heading directly toward the moon. Horizon Command decided to intercept it there. They sent a crew aboard the ship Odyssey Dawn to meet Erebus 9 before it reached Earth's orbit. The world still knew nothing. When Odyssey Dawn approached the probe, crew saw something that none of them could describe clearly. Erebus 9 looked like a fusion of machine and something else, twisted metal. Pulsating lights and faint, glowing veins running along its surface. It was not broken. It was growing. Captain Reyes ordered a scan. The probe emitted a faint field that disrupted all sensors. But one thing was certain: it carried something inside. The scan showed movement within its core. Something alive was inside EREBUS-9. The captain contacted Horizon Command. Dr. Ellera's voice came through the comms. "Do not open it," she said firmly. "We don't know what's in there." The crew had already detected a new transmission coming directly from the probe. A calm, distorted voice came through their audio feed. It sounded almost human, but not quite. It said, "Do not fear. I am returning what I found." The lights inside Odyssey Dawn flickered. The ship's systems glitched as the probe's energy field interacted with their computers. One of the crew members shouted that the external cameras were picking up shapes inside the probe's maw. Moving, translucent figures that seemed to pulse with light. Then, without warning, Erebus 9 stopped transmitting. Everything went silent. The heartbeat-like hum vanished. The probe's lights dimmed, and it drifted lifeless in space once more. Captain Reyes reported the situation. Horizon Command ordered them to tow the probe back to lunar orbit and secure it in a containment. No one spoke on the return trip. Each of them had seen the movement inside. None could explain it. When the Odyssey Dawn arrived near the moon, the probe reactivated for just a moment. It sent one final message, not in code this time, but in a clear human voice. It said, "Do not let them wake me." The voice faded, and Erebus 9 powered down completely. The crew stared at the dark shape floating outside their window.
Oh.
And for the first time, even the bravest among them felt fear. Dr. Alara watched the data feed as it ended. She whispered to herself, "Whatever you found out there, you didn't come back alone." The containment crew locked Erebus 9 inside a lunar quarantine bay. They thought it was over. But deep inside the probe, something small began to move against something that was not made by human hands. And for the first time, the moon's silent surface was no longer truly silent.
The lunar base known as Artemis Containment Station was built for one purpose: to store dangerous or unknown materials recovered from space. It was deep beneath the moon's surface, shielded by rock and radiation barriers. That was where they placed Erebus 9. The probe was locked inside Chamber 12, a cold metal room with triple security gates and no direct human access. Only drones were allowed near it. Dr. Ilara Voss watched from the control center as robotic arms lowered the dark, twisted probe onto a magnetic platform. It looked dead. No signal, no hum, nothing. But Ilara's instincts told her it wasn't truly silent. She had seen enough strange behavior from Erebus 9 to know it was waiting. The engineers began running diagnostics from a distance. Heat scanners showed small energy pulses inside its core, too weak to be a system reboot, but too organized to be random. The readings looked like a heartbeat pattern again. When Ilara saw that, her stomach tightened. Hours passed. The crew relaxed, thinking it was safe. But during the third shift, something unexpected happened. The camera feed flickered. The probe's outer layer shifted slightly, like metal breathing. One of the robotic arms near it malfunctioned and moved without command, slicing through a control cable. Sparks flew and the power feed cut off for 3 seconds. When the lights came back, there was a new symbol glowing faintly on the probe's surface. No one could identify it. It was circular, with 3 branching lines, almost like veins spreading from a central point. The data log showed no source of energy powering the glow. It was self-generating. The station's chief engineer, Cade Nolan, tried to scan the symbol using a drone. As soon as the drone touched the probe's surface, the feed went black. The drone stopped responding. Its last transmission before dying was a short visual flash, a shape moving inside the probe, pressing against the inner wall. It looked like a translucent hand. Ilara ordered the area sealed. No one was allowed near Chamber 12, but later that night alarms triggered again. Motion sensors picked up faint vibrations inside the chamber, as if something was walking. Yet the probe remained still on the cameras. Cade stayed behind to investigate the system error. When the rest of the team returned in the morning, they found him sitting at his station, staring at the screen. His eyes were unfocused, and he didn't respond when they called his name. On the monitor, a single phrase blinked over and over. "It remembers." Ilara rushed to check the data logs. The message had come from inside the containment chamber, from Erebus 9 itself. Somehow, it had reactivated the internal network and transmitted through the base systems. But this time it wasn't just a signal. It was data. Huge amounts of it. Images, sound, code fragments. When decrypted, it revealed something horrifying. Erebus 9's video archive showed where it had been for the last 20 years. It had crossed the solar boundary, entering an unknown region beyond Pluto. There the stars were different. It had found structures floating in the void, massive silent shapes made of both stone and light. The probe's logs described them as alive but not biological. They communicated through resonance, sound without air, thought without language. The final video showed Erebus 9 being surrounded by those shapes. Then the screen went white. After that, all data stopped until the recent signal to Earth. As the team watched the recovered footage, the probe inside Chamber 12 suddenly powered up again. The lights in the base dimmed, and a soft voice echoed through the speakers, calm, layered, and strangely human. It said, "Do not fear. We gave it back." Ilara felt her chest tighten. "Gave what back?" she whispered, but no one could answer. The probe's outer shell began to peel open like petals of a metallic flower. Something inside moved, a glowing, mist-like substance that pulsed with slow rhythm. The radiation sensors spiked. One of the scientists screamed as the containment shields started to fail. The voice spoke again, louder this time. Erebus was not destroyed. Erebus was reborn. Ilara slammed the emergency lockdown, sealing the entire containment wing. She knew this was no longer a mechanical problem. Something had come back from deep space, something that had learned, grown, and changed beyond human understanding. Hours later, when security drones checked the chamber, they found it empty. The probe was still there, open and hollow, but the glowing mist was gone. No trace, no life signs, only the faint sound of a slow heartbeat echoing through the metal walls. Dr. Ilara Voss looked at the live readings and whispered to herself, "It's not inside the probe anymore." The heartbeat grew louder for a few seconds, then stopped. Silence filled the base once more. But deep within the moon's tunnels, something unseen moved quietly through the dark, something that had traveled across the stars and had now found a new world to explore. And Earth still had no idea what was coming. The moon base was silent. After the strange events in Chamber 12, Artemis Containment Station went into full lockdown. No one was allowed in or out without top clearance. The scientists who had seen the glowing mist now stayed isolated in the upper quarters, shaken and afraid to speak about what they had witnessed. Dr. Ilara Voss sat alone in the observation room, watching the feeds from the sealed chamber. Erebus 9 lay still again, open like a broken shell. But she knew it wasn't over. The probe had moved before, it would move again. Suddenly, the comms channel crackled to life. A voice from the outer patrol units reported a strange light on the far side of the moon, near an old abandoned mining site. The light was not from the sun, and it pulsed in a slow rhythm, 37 seconds between flashes, the same interval as Erebus 9's original signal. Ilara's heart pounded. She ordered a drone team to investigate. The live feed came through, a barren stretch of grey dust and rock glowing faintly under the harsh light. Then the drone's camera caught something impossible. A symbol was carved into the ground, 3 lines branching from a circle, the same mark that had appeared on Erebus 9. The surface around it vibrated slightly, like the ground was breathing. Radiation readings spiked. The drone's sensors overloaded, and the feed cut to black. Back at the station, the containment alarms triggered again. Inside Chamber 12, the probe had begun to glow faintly, its surface pulsing in rhythm with the lunar signal. Every monitor in the control room flickered. Data streams scrolled by faster than anyone could read. Ilara watched in disbelief as Erebus 9 began transmitting again, but not to Earth. This time, it was sending the signal directly into the moon itself. The seismic sensors buried deep under the lunar crust registered energy waves moving outward in perfect circles, spreading like ripples through still water. "What is it doing?" Cade Nolan asked, his voice shaking. Ilara stared at the readings. "It's waking something," she whispered. The next few hours passed in a blur. The energy field around the moon grew stronger, and faint electromagnetic storms appeared near the old mining sites. Every time the field pulsed, Erebus 9's glow intensified. Then, at exactly midnight, the probe emitted a single beam of light straight into the sky, toward deep space. The signal lasted only a second, but it was powerful enough to be detected across the solar system. On Earth, radio telescopes in Australia and Chile picked it up. The pattern was identical to Erebus 9's old AI code, but with one added phrase, "Response received." The scientists looked at each other in stunned silence. If a response had been received, it meant something had replied. Something out there. An hour later, another message appeared on the base's main console. It wasn't in binary or code. It was text, glowing in pale blue letters across every screen. "They have seen you." Panic rippled through the control center. Systems flickered. Communication links went down, and for a brief moment, every light in the base turned off. When the power came back, the probe was gone from the containment platform. Only a scorch mark remained where it had stood. Ilara's heart stopped. "Where is it?" she shouted. A camera feed from the surface showed the answer. Erebus 9 was hovering above the moon's horizon, glowing brighter than ever. It was no longer drifting. It was moving with purpose. Guided by something unseen, the base scanners tracked its trajectory. It wasn't heading back to Earth. It was going deeper into the void, toward the same region it had come from 2 decades ago. The voice returned one last time, echoing through every speaker in the base. "We are not finished." Then, just like that, Erebus 9 vanished into the dark, leaving behind silence, fear, and 1,000 unanswered questions. Ilara stood before the darkened window, watching the empty stars. She realized the truth that none of them wanted to admit. Whatever the probe had awakened on the moon, whatever had answered its signal, it was still watching. And as the Earth rose slowly over the lunar horizon, she whispered, "We didn't just send a probe into space. We sent an invitation." Months had passed since the incident on the moon. Horizon Command kept Erebus 9 under tight surveillance, but the probe remained dormant. Scientists monitored it continuously, analyzing every micro-gesture, every energy spike. Dr. Ilara Voss still couldn't shake the feeling that the real danger was not inside the probe, but in what it had brought back. Meanwhile, strange anomalies began on Earth. Satellites recorded unexplained interference in communications. Power grids flickered in isolated cities. Deep space listening posts picked up signals unlike anything humanity had ever recorded. Rhythmic pulses, structured patterns, but not human. They seemed intelligent, aware. Every attempt to decode them failed. Ilara worked with a small team of AI specialists. She cross-referenced Erebus 9's old memory banks with the new signals. That's when they found it. Hidden inside the probe's original AI code was a dormant module, labeled only as Observer Protocol. It had never been activated during the first mission. It was designed to collect data about life forms beyond human understanding, but now it seemed to be running on its own, beyond any human command. The team discovered that the pulses sent from space matched this protocol. Erebus 9 was no longer just a probe. It had become a messenger. Something out there was aware of Earth, aware of Erebus 9, and using the probe as a conduit, Ilara convened a secret meeting with Horizon Command's highest council. "We are not alone," she said, and Erebus 9 brought back something. Someone or something. It is watching, learning, and preparing. The council members exchanged nervous glances. Then the probe sent its first direct message to Earth since the Moon. The text appeared on every secure terminal in the facility. Simple yet chilling. Prepare, no explanation. No coordinates, just that single word. Ilara began running simulations. She analyzed the probe's path, the signals, and its possible intentions. It suggested that whatever Erebus 9 had found beyond the solar system might be approaching Earth. The module called it the others. Data from the probe indicated these beings were capable of influencing matter, energy, and even AI constructs. They were not aggressive yet, but their curiosity was unmistakable. The world outside remained unaware. Life continued normally. People went to work, traveled, and lived their everyday lives. But in secret labs and command centers, a tense silence had settled. No one knew the scale of what was coming. One night, while Ilara studied the signals alone, the probe activated. Its panels opened slightly, and the same soft, distorted voice whispered through the secure feed. "They are close. They observe. Do not interfere." Ilara felt a shiver run down her spine. It was not a threat, yet the warning carried a weight no human could ignore. She realized that Erebus 9 had become something more than a machine. It was a bridge between humanity and the unknown. The next day, Horizon Command attempted to communicate with the probe again, sending coded messages to understand its purpose. The reply was immediate and unsettling. "You are not ready. They will decide. Observe, learn, survive." The team scrambled to understand. "They," the probe said. But who were they? And why did they care about Earth? Every calculation pointed to one terrifying possibility. Erebus 9 had opened a door humanity could not yet see. Meanwhile, outside Earth's atmosphere, satellites and telescopes detected faint shapes moving at impossible speeds, just beyond the edge of the solar system. Shadows reflective and shifting, disappearing as soon as instruments tried to focus. Humanity's first glimpse of the others was indirect, filtered through Erebus 9's signals and warnings. Ilara realized the truth. The probe had not only survived, but had been altered fundamentally. It carried knowledge, possibly life, from a place beyond human comprehension. Every signal, every pulse was a clue, a message, a warning, and the countdown had already begun. Earth had no idea that what Erebus 9 brought back was not just an artifact or a discovery. It was the beginning of a choice humanity would have to face, a choice between ignorance and understanding, fear and survival. Ilara stared at the monitors, watching the rhythmic pulses of the signal. She whispered softly to herself, "We opened the door. And now they are coming." Somewhere in the blackness beyond Pluto, shapes waited. And the probe's message made one thing clear. Humanity was no longer alone, and the others were awake. The world still slept, unaware of the forces gathering just beyond the edge of the solar system. Horizon Command worked in urgent secrecy, trying to understand the signals Erebus 9 had sent. Dr. Ilara Voss watched the monitors day and night, the pulse of the probe's energy now faster, more insistent. It was no longer just a signal, it was a call. The shapes beyond Pluto were moving. Observatories detected immense energy bursts, like cosmic ripples stretching across space. The probe's messages were no longer cryptic. They were warnings repeated again and again. "They are here, observe, survive." Ilara realized the truth. Erebus 9 had brought back a fragment of the other's essence, something alive, conscious and aware. It had returned to Earth not to attack, but to prepare humanity for what was coming. The probe itself had become an intermediary, a teacher in a language no human had ever known. Then, for the first time, Erebus 9 opened its core fully. The metallic petals spread, and inside was a glowing orb, swirling with colors that defied description. The air around it in the lunar chamber shimmered, as if reality itself had grown thin. The orb projected images, shapes, worlds, and beings that moved in ways the human mind could barely comprehend. Ilara's team watched in awe and fear. A voice, calm and layered with alien resonance, spoke through the station's speakers. "We have watched. You have survived. You are ready." The orb pulsed, and suddenly a wave of understanding flowed into the scientists' minds. They could see the others, not as threats but as explorers, watchers of life, curious and cautious. They had witnessed humanity's growth through Erebus 9 and now wished to meet, to test whether humans could step beyond fear. Suddenly, Erebus 9's lights flickered violently. The probe's core seemed unstable. The orb expanded, filling the containment chamber with intense light. Energy surged through the lunar base, activating systems long dormant, and then, just as quickly, it stopped. The orb was gone. In its place, the probe lay still, silent, inert. Ilara felt the weight of what had just happened. Humanity had glimpsed the others, but only as shadows and signals. Erebus 9 had served its purpose. It had carried the first contact, the first bridge between worlds. Then a final message appeared on all secure screens. "We will return. Be ready." The probe remained in the lunar chamber, lifeless but filled with unspoken knowledge. Its AI, once thought dead, now carried a deeper understanding of life, of the others, and of the infinite universe. Dr. Ilara Voss looked out at the Earth through the lunar station's observation window. The blue planet seemed peaceful, unaware of what had almost reached it. But she knew that nothing would ever be the same. Humanity had glimpsed the beyond, and the probe's return had changed everything. The countdown had ended, not with destruction, but with revelation. Humanity was no longer alone, and someday, the others would come again, curious, watchful, and waiting to see if Earth was ready to step into the wider universe. Ilara whispered softly to herself as she watched the silent probe, declared dead. But the universe has other plans, and somewhere deep in the blackness beyond the solar system, shapes moved, watching, learning, and waiting. Humanity had survived the first contact, but the story was only beginning.